Hello everyone and welcome. Today we bring you a very disturbing and deeply important investigation. Women who were sexually abused by the late criminal Jeffrey Epstein have been put through a second wave of pain. This time, not by Epstein himself, but by the very United States government that was supposed to protect them. Jeffrey Epstein was a wealthy financier and convicted sex criminal who abused dozens of young women and girls over many years. He died in a New York jail cell in 2019. The U.S. Department of Justice, under the Trump administration, released millions of pages of FBI files related to the Epstein case in January 2026, claiming it was an act of transparency for the American public. However, the release was carried out in a chaotic and deeply irresponsible way. The DOJ failed to properly hide the names and personal information of hundreds of victims in those documents, a process called redaction. As a result, the identities of nearly 100 survivors were exposed to the entire world online, including their full names, dates of birth, home addresses, email addresses, bank account information, and driver's license numbers. More than 24 of those exposed were minors, children, at the time of their abuse. In one shocking case, a single document revealed one minor victim's name 20 times. When that victim reported the problem to the DOJ, the department only corrected 3 of the 20 instances, leaving her name still visible in 17 other places. The release also included nude images of young women and possibly teenagers with their faces clearly visible, images that the DOJ had promised it would never release. The real-world consequences for these survivors have been horrifying. Multiple victims reported being immediately flooded with disgusting private messages from strangers. One survivor wrote in a court filing, "I have never come forward. I am now being harassed by the media and others. This is devastating to my life." Another victim received direct death threats and was forced to close her bank accounts and credit cards after her financial security was put at risk by the exposure. Another described the release as life-threatening. Lawyers representing more than 200 Epstein survivors described January 30th, 2026, the day of the biggest release, as what may be the single most egregious violation of victim privacy in one day in United States history. The lawyers went to court on an emergency basis, asking federal judges in New York to immediately shut down the DOJ's Epstein Files website. A deal was eventually reached between the lawyers and the DOJ to protect the identities of nearly 100 women going forward, but the damage was already done. Meanwhile, powerful men who were allegedly connected to Epstein remain largely protected in these documents. The DOJ withheld 2.5 million pages from the public. A separate investigation revealed that the DOJ specifically withheld portions of the Epstein files that contained allegations involving President Donald Trump himself. A revelation that led Democrats on the House Oversight Committee to say the withholding could be a potential crime. A woman who accused Trump of sexually assaulting her as a child was found to be uniquely marked in the FBI files with the words "Protect Source," a special designation given to no other victim or witness in the entire Epstein file database. In a new development, Epstein's longtime personal assistant, Sarah Kellen, testified before the House Oversight Committee on May 21st, 2026. Revealing that she herself was sexually abused by Epstein for over a decade, and also by his convicted accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, and 2 other men in Epstein's circle. Kellen said she would be willing to cooperate fully with investigators if given legal immunity. The pattern here is deeply painful. These women were first abused by Epstein, then ignored by the justice system for years, then exposed by the government that promised to protect them, and now they are being harassed and threatened all over again. The fight for real justice and privacy for Epstein survivors is far from over.